Hello, Charles Bain. How excited are you for this year's Fantasia Fest?
Well, I'm super excited. It's crazy the trajectory of this movie. I've never made a film that now is in this festival mode. We have about 10 of them. They've made offers. We're going to Sitges in Spain in October. So
Nice.
it's also ironic that a movie that's taken decades to finish and was
Right.
at the end of last year now is sort of waiting to be, premiered and exposed to all these film festivals. It's like, well, wait a minute. I guess this is apropos Primevals, which the movie that just has taken, a lot of time to get done. So it's cool, but it's not what I'm used to. I'm used to dreaming up a movie, and 30 days later the script, and then 60 days later we're shooting, and then 4 months later it's being released, because we're in the business of, you spend money and you want to bring the money back, and whether it's theatrical or video back in the old days, and then streaming now, the idea of sitting on a movie for a year, especially that movie, is really weird. But
So you're saying the festival scene's not really your thing, but it's kind of
zero,
interesting that it's
never
going.
done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, no, I've never done this. I mean, we've had, I've made hundreds of movies, but the business model is always, get the movie out as soon as possible and promote it and hope for the best, whatever the medium is. But because Primevals is so unique, it is also the most expensive movie we've ever made. When it was finished at the end of last year, I showed it to a few people I trust, and they go, you have something so special here. You can't just release it on streaming and on Blu-ray. You've got to let people see it, submit it to festivals, and that may open up a whole new, world for you and for Full Moon. So that's what we did. But again, it's not a quick, oh yeah, let's do that in January. So, my guess is by the time we've been at 7, 8 of these festivals, Fantasia being the first this coming weekend, we probably won't have the movie out till early next year. So for those who've been patient for decades, it's another year before people get to see Primeval. So
How would you characterize the state of genre cinema as it stands right now, today?
it's really bad. It sucks. I mean, here's the little independent guy talking shit about big movies. The charming movies we grew up with, not only had visionaries attached, but really good producers who would go to the director, go, you don't need this, and it doesn't need to be this long. And there was a collaboration which doesn't exist anymore. And I'm a big, I'll see any movie that's sci-fi, fantasy, horror. I go to the theater. I haven't stopped doing that. And it's easy to bash all these Marvel movies and say, oh well, the movie's not making money because they spent millions on Harrison Ford's rejuvenation and stuff. None of that is true. They're not making money because they're big, bloated. It's just too much. No one needs all these special effects, endless. Back in the day, movies that we all grew up with, had a smattering of visual effects, which were enchanting. And then you got back to characters and people you enjoyed watching, and they were generally 90-minute movies, which is a nice running time. And it's really too bad that we've lost our way. And because to make a really cool sci-fi movie, especially, that's an expensive canvas. That's why generally I've been making horror movies, because I can afford that kind of. Sci-fi is a different deal. But when you ask people, what are the great sci-fi movies over the last 40, 50 years, or horror movies, very few that have been made in recent years come up. I mean, the first Iron Man was fantastic. I thought, oh my God, they're onto such a great thing. I was friends going back to the 70s with Stan Lee, and we would talk about it. And Stan, that's what made Marvel special. He took the kind of lifeless, soulless DC superhero matrix, and he introduced human beings, who had their issues and problems, and Spider-Man and Fantastic Four, and if that was more grafted into the movies and you cared about these people, it'd be more fun. But I don't know how many times we're going to watch cities get destroyed and tidal waves, and it's just like, oh my God, give me some characters that I care about, and please let me leave in 90 minutes.
Like in Reanimator.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's a bunch. I mean, even a little sci-fi movie I made called Transfers was a fun, clever.
I've seen it. Yeah,
tale.
Not all of them. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, they all play pretty well. again, it's apples and oranges. I mean, we have tiny budgets. I mean, someone asked me, they go, "Oh, so how many movies would you be able to make for the budget of I forget what it was. I guess it was Indiana Jones or close to $300 million." I said, "Well, probably 3,000 movies, I mean, like not 30 or 3,000 movies, so somewhere in between, clever little storytelling, character driven. And again, no one sets out to make a bad movie, but somewhere between that world where people were conscious of, of just the parameters of and what the audience wants to where we're at today. Sorry, there's a long-winded answer, but
we're having fun. We're just hanging out. That's all.
It is unfortunate, looking back. What are the clever, great horror movies? There are a few. Get Out was a freaking amazing movie. I mean, clever, well written. Unless someone tipped you off, you didn't know what you were watching. The Sixth Sense, another movie that I know it's by now decades old, but these are clever movies. So yeah, it's unfortunate. You asked the question, so I'm.
Hey, we're hanging out. We're
hanging out. We're hanging out.
So I've seen nearly every Puppet Master movie. I haven't seen.
My God.
I know. I haven't seen the new Greg Sestero one, but I've seen all the other ones.
Right.
And David Allen, who did the Primevals, did Puppet Master 2. So and he did a lot of your other movies too, right? How integral was he to your success? Or
well, I was, big stop motion animation fan as a kid. Ray Harryhausen, Jason and the Argonauts, Seven Voyages of Sinbad. And when I started making movies in the 70s, my dream was to make and the first movies were basically not sci-fi movies. My dream was to make a sci-fi movie and somehow get some stop motion animation in that film. And so the one I dreamt up was called Laser Blast.
Right.
These aliens who, as clever as they are, carelessly leave this laser blast weapon for our young kid who gets, treated badly, gets the weapon, he blows up all his tormentors, basic revenge story. Then the aliens literally halfway back to their planet realize they lost their weapon. They see on their monitor our guy shooting shit up. The spaceship literally turns around and goes back and they get their weapon back. So, I think that movie remade today, clever, would actually be a terrific film. Having said that, I needed some stop motion animation shots, and somehow the universe connected me with Dave Allen. I'm not sure how. We really hit it off. I didn't have the budget for what these things cost because, just the armature back then was $15,000 or $20,000. It's a very precise science of the foam and the thing, and then the time it takes. I'm pretty impatient, but I learned quickly that it takes 3-4 days to get one good 4-second shot. This is not like,
wow.
It's a very time consuming, one frame at a time. And then if you're super clever, which Dave was, you could wrap other things in there. You needed background plates. Anyway, I begged, I borrowed, Dave agreed. And so he was brought on board to do the stop motion animation for Laser Blast. And this was a little precursor later, many years later, to Primevals in a way, because, I'd finished the movie. This is all money that I cobbled together. So once you finish shooting a movie, 90% of your budget is spent. And I really wanted to finish it and get it out. Back then it was a theatrical world. And then, of course, it took 2 months for Dave and his team to do the stop motion animation shots. 2 months. That's, in my world, an eternity. And but I waited and I kept visiting the studio. Come down, I got another shot. It was like 5 days later, there's one more shot, a 3-second shot. Anyway, he got done. We developed this great relationship. He told me that he has a pet project that if I'm ready one day, he'd love to make it with me because we work well together. He had an incredible team assembled. Dennis Murin, Phil Tippett. He had people who all went on to become huge effects gurus.
Yeah, Phil had that movie Mad God 2 years ago. That was a good one.
Yeah. Anyway, so the project was called the Primevals. I said, well, what do you think you need? He said, oh, there's 250, 300 stop motion shots. It's about a 12 to 14 week shoot. It's going to be millions of dollars. I go, well, maybe one day if I win the lottery, but I'd love to make it with you, Dave. And then we started this relationship where I brought him in for a number of projects that required stop motion animation. The most ambitious in the 80s was Dolls, which I still think is one of our better films. And then the first several Puppet Master films, he he did the stop motion shots, and then he said, you should let me direct one of these. I mean,
Yeah.
Primevals. I said, but David, I'm not ready for that. He said, well, let me direct one. So he directed Puppet Master 2.
Mm-hmm.
And, we kept talking about Primevals. And then one day in the early 90s, when we were distributed by Paramount, things were going well enough. I said, under these circumstances and conditions, let's finally make the movie. So keep in mind that even back then, our average shoot was 3 weeks and our average budget was well under $1 million. This was a 12-week shoot that required going partially for some of the weeks to the Italian Dolomites. We had to build sets at our studios, which I owned at the time, in Romania and Bucharest. And then after the movie gets shot, and you spent, in this case, some millions of dollars, it was a 2-year post-production schedule to do all these stop motion animation shots, 2 years. So, okay, we signed off. They shot the movie. My wonderful father, also no longer with us, was the line producer. I looked at the material, it looked amazing, and then began this 2-year plus schedule of these stop motion animation shots, over 250. And about 12, 13, 14 months into that schedule, Dave Allen died of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and at the same time, we were no longer distributed by Paramount. Our fortunes turned for the worse. Couldn't afford to continue. So we literally put all that material in a box. And it took 24 years, 25 years to finally be in a position 4 years ago to in this case, talk to Dave Allen's right arm guy, a guy named Chris Endicott, who stuck with that project from day one. He was a great guy. And we finally decided, okay, let's do it. So Chris put together a team. This is maybe 4 years ago. And little by little, we finished all the shots, and the movie was done at the end of last year.
God damn, what a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was he like as a man?
That. What
was he like as a man?
Dave was, I don't know, best, very quiet, obviously energetic. He was a throwback, I think, to the 40s. If I don't know how to describe it, but he worked with Harryhausen.
He did the Equinox. That was a cool movie.
Yeah, that was back in the 70s. But,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of the right word that's not nerd, but Dave was a sort of a genius in his world, and yeah. So hopefully, I know we did the right thing. It took forever. This was a project that had nothing to do with ever making a penny, because even the stop motion work that we did over the last 4 years in this new digital world of no money will never recover even those dollars. But it's important sometimes to do things for the right reason. And this is, for Dave, who was such a contributor to so many of my movies, and for a lot of fans who I think will be really, it's a joyful movie to watch. It's just a throwback. Here it is, a movie coming out probably next year, 2024, that it is very retro. It was shot in the 90s. It has that vibe, but it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It started in the 90s, but it feels like a 60s movie.
Yes.
It definitely like, all the Mysterious Island or A Million Years BC, all those films definitely like has that vibe. And I really like the aliens. You have one of them behind you. It's sort of like that plays in with the reptilian humanoids people. I think they'll like that.
Yeah, well, those are great characters. The whole thing, we still have pieces of those sets. It was, for our world, this was, Gone with the Wind. This is like a big deal. But I think the movie is charming and plays, it's a real blast from the past. It's almost like a full moon movie you missed that was really cool and expensive in the 90s. Or maybe the 80s, or maybe the 70s. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and the Yeti's fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's exciting and definitely a blast from the past. I don't know. I asked someone recently who's a kind of film historian. I go, is there anything else quite like this, a movie that was conceived 50 years ago or longer? Because Dave Allen first announced this project before I met him, and it was on the cover of a magazine called Cine Fantastique in 1969.
Jesus Christ.
69. And then, I agreed to make it in 78. We shot it in 94, and it's going to come out 30 years later. So I don't know if there's anything quite like it.
That's quite a story for sure. What can people expect from your panel? You're going to do a panel at Fantasia Fest.
It'll be a surprise to me too.
Okay.
I'm this whole festival route I've never done before. This is not what we make movies and promote them and release them. I think this movie warrants that. So
you've never been to Fantasia Fest? Never.
No.
Because Puppet Master came in 2018. You weren't there for that?
No, Puppet Master. You mean the original?
No, the 2018 one.
2018 one
with Udo Kier and Fabio Frizzi.
Which Puppet Master? Because there are many. The Littlest Reich. Is that what you're talking about?
Let me look this up.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it played at Fantasia.
Oh, it's very possible. This is the first time I've been to any of these festivals.
Zoller wrote it. S. Craig Zoller.
Yes. So during my career,
The Littlest Reich. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
During my career, in moments of need, like AKA you have no money, sometimes I've made deals because they were helpful. So The Littlest Reich is a movie that I had nothing to do with. I licensed the rights to another company, and they made that Puppet Master. So nothing to do with it other than licensing the rights. And I saw part of it. I wasn't a big fan because I think they took the puppets in a direction that I would not have, but I don't regret the deal. It's another weird Puppet Master movie, but it's not owned by Full Moon, nor was I at any of these festivals. As a matter of fact, I've never been to any festival ever in my life, with one exception, and that is some years ago, Sitges in Spain invited me because they wanted to give me the Lifetime Achievement Award, and part of me was like, fuck that, I'm just getting going here. It's this lifetime thing, But I still went, and it was really sweet, and I got an award and made a speech. So with that exception, I've never been to any film festivals. So it'll be new to me.
Have you been to Montreal before?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you're in for a treat. I think you're going to have a good time.
Listen, I speak a little French. I grew up in Italy.
Petit peu?
Petit peu. Italian. When I go into Italian, it's my first language, much easier than English. So anyway, that's another story. But no, I'm looking forward to the whole experience. And whoever shows up to that workshop thing on Saturday, whatever they want to know, I'm happy to talk about it.
That's great. Well, Charles, thanks so much for your time. It's been a lot of fun. As someone who loves those Stuart Gordon movies, I want to say thank you. That was great.
You're very welcome. There's so much more to come too. We have some cool things we've cooked up here. So thank you. Thanks for this time. And people are asking, when is Primevals coming out? Because we made articles, and I go, well, at this point, I'm still thinking maybe Christmas at the earliest. But unlike the last 40 years, it's not because it isn't finished. It's because it's playing this festival route. So hopefully that will, bring in some other people who wouldn't normally look at these films.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. And I appreciate the time. Good luck to you too.
Thank you very much.
Bye.